Two.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to our weekly media briefing and public health update with Montgomery County Executive Marc Elrich. I'm Lorna Virgili, Hispanic Public Information Officer. Thanks for joining us. And also joining us today is Mr. Sean O'Donnell, Deputy Chief of Public Health Services for the Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. James Bridgers, the Director for the Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. Earl Stoddard, Assistant Chief Administrative Officer, and we have two guests today. Anthony Featherstorm, Executive Director, WorkSource Montgomery, and Bridget Howe, Executive Director for Nonprofit Montgomery. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Mr. County Executive, good afternoon to you.
Yep. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I want to start on Sunday. I attended the American Muslim Senior Society Certified Nursing Assistants Achievement Recognition and Networking event. We recognize the achievements of certified nursing assistants, often referred to as CNAs, certified medical technicians, and geriatric nursing assistants who have completed the CNA Scholarship and Employment Program. These are people who do some of the hardest and most important work in healthcare, and I was proud to celebrate them this week. The program empowers individuals in our county to pursue meaningful careers in healthcare, and workforce training programs like this one, especially in high-demand industries, are critical for both our economy and for equity in the community. They create pathways to good jobs, which is something that we are constantly looking to create. According to WorkSource Montgomery, registered nurses and nursing assistants are the top two jobs in the healthcare industry, accounting for over 16% of industry jobs combined. These roles are projected to add more jobs than almost any other occupation in the coming years. That means these careers are a path to long-term economic stability for many individuals and families in our county. That's why it's important that CNA Scholarship and Employment Program are here in the county, and they connect people to the training and opportunities that they need to succeed. Through WorkSource Montgomery, we're providing workforce and career-ready training programs like this one to meet the needs of our residents and our economy. Healthcare is an area that we know the demand will only grow. We do have an aging population here in Montgomery County and pretty much else nationally. The people we celebrated on Sunday are stepping up to care for those who need it the most and are helping to build stronger, healthier communities in the process. The American Muslim Senior Society's work highlights another critical aspect, the role of our nonprofit community in supporting programs like this one. Our nonprofits step up every day to serve residents, whether through workforce training, food security, housing assistance, or healthcare access. But I got to say, right now, our nonprofits need support, probably more support than ever. The county budget is tight. We've put a lot of money into the nonprofit area, but it's getting increasingly challenging to meet the needs, which are often and not surprisingly greater than what we've been able to address fully within our budget. And with our county having a tight budget, and with the state facing its own budget challenges, and the fact that we do not know what might happen at the federal level, more and more we're going to be relying on residents. And as I told the group on Sunday, private sector support for our nonprofit community is more important than ever now. Not just private sector support, but support from private individuals. On the federal level, we really don't know what programs are going to survive or not survive, and what the impact is going to be on county programs that depend on federal aid, whether it comes directly from the federal government to us or whether it comes via pass-through through the state. In either case, we're not sure what the intentions are. The intentions do not look good. And that could very likely put a greater burden on the county to be able to address these needs. We're hoping that our residents will give to these organizations to help them make it possible for these nonprofits to survive at this very critical time. End of year giving, we know, represents a significant portion of annual fundraising for many organizations, and a large percentage of donations often come in December as people choose to give the charity and and they also benefit from tax deductions. If a person, business, or organization is in a position to give, I encourage them to do so. Supporting our nonprofits helps strengthen the safety net for our neighbors and families. I've invited Anthony Featherstone, the Executive Director of WorkSource Montgomery, and Bridget Cow, the Executive Director of nonprofit Montgomery, to join me today to discuss this further. Anthony can speak to the work of WorkSource Montgomery and what they're doing to provide career training and connect residents to opportunities. We don't talk enough about WorkSource Montgomery County, and they definitely are the unsung heroes in our work to change lives. And the same can be said for nonprofit Montgomery, and Bridget will talk about the state of our nonprofit sector and why supporting nonprofits during this time of year is so essential to their work. Before I turn it over there, I want to emphasize one thing: workforce development and nonprofit support are directly tied to the county's economic development areas and equity issues. And we continue to support nonprofits. And when we do that, we ensure that the most vulnerable members of our community have access to the services that they need. And at the same time, we help build a more equitable Montgomery County. So there's a lot we're trying to do, and I think this work's very important. I'm going to turn it over to Anthony and Bridget now to speak.
Good afternoon, Anthony. There you are.
Yep. So good afternoon, and Mr. County Executive, thank you for the opportunity to join you today. I want to provide 3 updates on kind of what's going on with WorkSource Montgomery and our Workforce Development Board. The first update is for the Montgomery County Career Advising Program, more commonly referred to as MoCo CAP. And so MoCo CAP is an initiative spearheaded by the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, which requires that all of our 6th through 12th graders receive career coaching through a collective of services offered through Montgomery College, Montgomery County Public Schools, and WorkSource Montgomery. And so we have 87,000 6th through 12th graders within our service population, which is larger than some jurisdictions have students. And so our model is a comprehensive model where we aim to help students identify, align, and explore. When we talk about identification, we want to help students be able to identify their set of strengths, interests, and work values. And once we do that work, then they're able to align with a set of career themes. Am I more realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, or conventional? And once students are able to identify and articulate their strengths, interests, and work values and have aligned with a set of work themes, then we do the work of making sure that they can make those theoretical careers and industries real for them with a set of career exploration activities. And so I mentioned that it's a comprehensive model because we aim to serve 87,000 students. We have 50 plus career coaches deployed throughout the 70 plus middle high schools and middle and high schools, as well as specialty programs that are offering one-on-one services, group services. I think one of the really unique things about this program is that we have over 500 teachers, which we call teacher champions within MCPS, who have volunteered to incorporate the career management language within their core curriculum in their classroom, which is really exciting. So this is not a point in time program where you have one session with one person and call it career coaching. We are happy to work with MCPS and Montgomery College to create more career curious school atmospheres, school by school. We also have an industry engagement team that's doing a set of Meet a Pro series virtually and in person, planning a large WOW event in March, World of Work event, where we're going to show 6th graders across the district what the world of work looks like in a hands-on experiential way with local employers. And so it's a really exciting program. We're in year 2. Through year 2, we've served over 25,000 students and have a positive response on those students saying that their experiences with MoCo CAP is helping them clarify their career vision for their future. So you can visit mococap.com if you want to learn more information or check out some of our program reports. Next up, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Community Workforce Network, which was one of our initial pandemic responses. The Community Workforce Network is a network of community providers, including WorkSource Montgomery, that comes together to increase the level of collaboration across organizations decrease duplication, which also decreases the kind of waste of funds, so we can leverage funds as we work together. We all work in a single partner portal where we can share referrals and share information. The goal of the Community Workforce Network and the resources and service offered through it is to ensure seamless job seeker service directory for residents that are most in need of services for economic mobility to receive services. Whether you are in need of services through Interfaith Works or WorkSource Montgomery, we're working together behind the scenes to make sure we're coordinating when we try to meet the needs of our residents who seek workforce development services. You can check out our community asset map at worksourcemontgomery.com if you want to know about the 100+ partners that are part of the Community Workforce Network. And also, I'd like to mention that there's a current grant for nonprofit organizations through the Community Workforce Network for general operational support if you are providing workforce or workforce adjacent services. And so we're excited about that. Please reach out to us, check our website out if you want to learn more information about that network and the programs and services we offer to our most vulnerable residents. Lastly, wanted to mention the local workforce development plan. In partnership with our workforce development board and the county executive, we publish a 4-year workforce plan that outlines what type of services the workforce development system and WorkSource Montgomery will be offering, who those services will be directed toward, what industries we'll focus on, what impacts we want to make on our communities, and where we want to be in 4 years and how we'll get there. And so that plan development is underway. There'll be opportunities for public engagement. And so we encourage you to reach out to us through our website if you want to join the January 15th Community Stakeholder Engagement Session. You'll also be able to check the plan out online during the public comment period to weigh in on your public workforce system and how it will operate and what impacts we look to make over the next 4-year process. And so those are the 3 updates that I wanted to provide today. Happy to answer questions, but once again, you can find out more information at www.worksourcemontgomery.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Featherstone. Ms. Howe?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for the invitation to join this call. First of all, I also want to recognize that Anthony is also a board member of Nonprofit Montgomery, contributing to the success of the sector through that service. So thank you for that. Nonprofit Montgomery is an alliance of nonprofits that provide services to Montgomery County residents. We provide training and technical assistance to support operational excellence related to financial management, human resources, outcomes evaluation, and other back office activities. And we work closely with county government to ensure that nonprofit concerns are heard. Coming up in March, we're going to be releasing a report on the State of Montgomery County Nonprofits 2025. And for that report, we did an intensive survey of county nonprofits, and we're not surprised to discover that funding is a major concern, paired with the ever-increasing costs of operating as businesses, office space, insurance, equipment, etc. Over the past 5 years, charitable giving from individuals, corporations, and foundations has declined, but the needs of the community continue to be pressing. Nonprofits in Montgomery County, as the county executive shared, provide life-saving safety net services like food, shelter, and health care, youth development, arts environment, workforce development, and so much more. Our county's nonprofit sector is robust. 10% of the county's workforce is employed by a nonprofit, and nonprofits based in the county contribute significantly to the county's economy as employers as well as service providers. So as the end of the year approaches, I do hope that county residents decide to give locally to ensure continuity in services for our neighbors and the organizations who support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Howe. Members of the media, we are going to open it up right now for questions for either Mr. Featherstone or Ms. Howe, topics related to WorkSource Montgomery and Nonprofit Montgomery. Raise your hands, please. Any questions from the media regarding these topics today? No questions. Going once? Twice? Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Featherstone, for joining us. Ms. Howe, thank you for joining us this afternoon. You can remain on the conference call or you can depart if you have to go. Thank you again for being here. Mr. County Executive.
Thank you both for coming on today. I will. I'm going to move on to talk about the governor's remarks at MACO. Last week was a very memorable and important winter conference for MACO. A lot of important discussions during a transitional time of the federal government and the state budget challenges, especially around transportation and education funding, kind of came together. Not since the height of the pandemic has there been a much sense of urgency at these gatherings. Everybody's very concerned about the state of Maryland's budget, as well as the state of the federal government and what they're going to do or not going to do. So there was lots to talk about. The highlight of the conference was Governor Moore's remarks. The governor outlined two significant challenges in the $2.7 billion state budget shortfall, uncertainty about federal support with the upcoming change in the administration. The governor made it clear that economic growth is essential to addressing these challenges while protecting critical priorities like education, healthcare, childcare, transportation, public safety, and housing. The problem is pretty clear. The governor highlighted Maryland's economic growth of only 3% from 2017 to 2022, compared to 11% nationally. And to address this, tomorrow, he's going to announce an upcoming executive order focused on economic competitiveness. And for what he previewed to us last week, we share many of the same goals. He highlighted statewide permitting issue, and streamlining the permitting process is something that I've been working on since the day I got elected to this job. We've made major reforms in our permitting, at least the county government side of permitting, to make sure that we can move things faster and help people get through the process more easily than they could before. He's been focusing on key sectors like life sciences, IT, and aerospace defense. And these are areas where the county leads the state and the region. We've got a new life sciences incubator with the University of Maryland's assistance in the Institute for Health Computing. We've just signed a lease for new space to expand an IT incubator that'll focus around AI as well. And we have a presence in aerospace and defense areas. And so the areas where the governor's talking about are areas that Montgomery County has some, I think, very particular strengths. And improving coordination between state and local governments is something that I really support to help better align our efforts. We've talked with the governor, for example, about our experience in trying to attract some major manufacturing companies to Montgomery County, and the fact that what we found, and it's not any surprise, is Montgomery County cannot match the level of grants that states like Texas and Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, Massachusetts are putting out to attract large-scale companies, and that if the state of Maryland is going to play in this space, it has to be aware of what our competition is doing, and it's going to have to up its game, so to speak, to make sure we can provide the right incentives to get our share of companies that would otherwise come here, but for our lack of incentives. And the county, for example, cannot compete with a place like Massachusetts. We simply don't have the resources to put on the table what Massachusetts is putting on the table. But it's a good lesson to see what other jurisdictions are doing and how successful they are as a result of their efforts. Today, Dr. Taylor is going to present his proposed 2026 budget to the Board of Education. The schools continue to need money for more salaries, more teachers in particular, and investments in facilities. You're all going to learn more about the school system's needs later tonight, but the needs are pretty serious. Governor Moore emphasized the importance of education and workforce development. He reaffirmed support for the blueprint for Maryland's future, but he also was very clear that he was going to target where spending went toward that blueprint. And some programs, because we cannot afford to do all of the programs, some programs are going to be delayed until some more immediate challenges are addressed. And I do think realistically, it makes more sense to address major immediate challenges than try to do a little bit of everything and none of it well and none of it comprehensively. Whereas there are opportunities to get over some of the big hurdles the state has right now. And I'm hoping that there's legislative and county support for his approach. I was heartened that they pointed out the state has actually reduced teacher vacancies by 25%, but there are still substantial vacancies in the system. And there are particularly a large number of empty slots in the special education area of our school system. And we are not meeting, in many places, are not meeting the mandated level of support that it is supposed to be in school for these students. So addressing that's going to be of paramount importance. As a brief reminder about how Montgomery County Schools got into this mess, we did a look back at school budgets going back to the era around 2010 going forward. What we found is that the county's budget today is about 20% lower than what the budget was per capita per student back in 2013. And if we had maintained the level of funding that we were at back in 2013, the gap would not be present today in the school system budget, and they would have been able to fill many of these positions. I am very encouraged, and I hope everybody else is encouraged in looking at the work Dr. Taylor is doing to actually right-size the school system as a whole, and the deep dive he's taking into the departments and what they fund and what they don't fund, and whether what they fund is actually key to the county's mission, or have we gone off on tangents that don't necessarily direct resources to the critical needs in the system. It's really good to be working with a superintendent who's taking this approach. There's a lot of work to be done, and I'm very happy that he's willing to address this. I look forward to a new school board, and I'm counting very much, and I hope all of us are counting that all the parties involved are serious about taking a look at the system, making sure that dollars are going where they're needed, but also being honest with the community about what they need if they're going to meet the targets that they have. We're well positioned to help lead on these issues that the governor raised, from life sciences to affordable housing to strong public safety initiatives. Montgomery County's been out in front, and the governor knows this. He's been there, and he's visited Montgomery County, and it's been a world of difference working with him compared to his predecessor. At the conference, it was clear that many state leaders agreed that we must find a new way of doing business quickly. That's why I continue to advocate for tax restructuring and get us more aligned with what Northern Virginia has been doing on transportation infrastructure. I'm going to say this again, when it comes to taxes on development, Montgomery County is the cheapest state in the metro area region. And the county's decades-long strategy of continuing to lower taxes on development has absolutely failed to attract housing or commercial development, and actually pushed a portion of that, the taxes needed to support development, onto residents and off of developers. And residents should not be shouldering an ever-increasing burden because of decisions by the council to lower the burden on the private sector. Virginia is not doing this. They're not lowering their prices in order to attract development. They're doing everything they can to build infrastructure, which is really what works. Companies building in Virginia are going there not for the tax rate. You're not going to Tyson's Corner to pay $1.51 when you could pay $1.04 here, nor are you going to DC where you can pay $1.89 on commercial property, and leaving Montgomery County, that's where you would pay $1.04. You're simply not going to these places because of their tax rates, but you're going there because of the infrastructure. And if you look at our situation, it's clear that infrastructure investment that builds a thriving environment that can support business expansion trumps lower property taxes or lower development taxes. And if taxes were the trump card in this game, we'd be winning. And I think everybody would agree from the state on down that we're actually not winning. I want to turn my attention to something that came up last week. My friend Jeff McKay, who's one of the Fairfax County supervisors, made a comment about us in Maryland Matters, and he said, referring to the state of Maryland, they're not going to say this publicly, but I think they believe that if people can't get across the two bridges will stop coming to Virginia to work. And he's referring, I guess, to American Legion Bridge and the bridge on the other side. And ultimately, that he believes they'll take jobs from Maryland, and that will help their economic development. In other words, if we do not build the bridges, that somehow this will benefit Maryland economically. To me, this is one of the most absurd, or he said this, he said, to me, this is one of the most absurd economic development visions of all time. I want to start by saying I have a lot of respect for Supervisor McKay. I work with him. I've enjoyed working with him on COG. And as you've heard many times in these briefings, I've often been the only Maryland elected official who goes to Northern Virginia to learn about how they operate. I've also enjoyed talking to them about how Nova's tax policies help them drive the development they have. While the suggestion that Maryland intentionally doesn't want to fix the Beltway is highly inaccurate, if not absurd, I do understand this frustration because I'm frustrated too. I want to point out first and foremost that when the former Governor Hogan has announced his plan at Committee for Montgomery for the Beltway in 270 back in 2018, I spoke right after him. And I said very clearly, if you're serious about unclogging the Beltway, you need to start at the bridge. And I said it because the governor wasn't talking about it. And I've said that repeatedly for the last 5 years to both the previous and current governors. If you're dealing with the bridge, whatever you do on either side of the current structure is just going to speed people to a choke point. If that bridge stays the way it is today, you can do all the improvements on the Beltway on both sides of the bridge, and it's just going to get people to a massive point on the bridge where no one's going anywhere. We experience a lot of that today. The American Legion Bridge is a vital connection for the entire region. The bridge is essential in Montgomery County and Fairfax County in particular. And frankly, a very large portion of commercial traffic is moving up and down the eastern seaboard on this road. We know the work that Virginia is doing in completing their side of the Beltway, and that it will soon reach the bridge. Without a coordinated effort to address the bridge itself, we do risk creating severe bottlenecks. With more federal employees returning to work and increasing traffic on our roads, the urgency of this project can't be overstated. That's why the best thing we can all do now is together push the federal government to approve the funding Maryland's Department of Transportation needs to begin work on this project. And I want to point out that, to Supervisor McKay as well, both Maryland and the state of Maryland and Montgomery County do not have the tax structure that you have. I will be honest, I am envious of your ability to put forward, billions of dollars over time to build key infrastructure projects that neither the state nor Montgomery County has been able to undertake. And I give the state of Virginia a lot of credit for being forward thinking about how they look at the tax situation and how they tie the taxes and the infrastructure to economic development. But at this juncture, regardless of all of that, we need the assistance of Governor Youngkin and the Virginia's congressional delegation. And I would ask, Supervisor McKay to join us in this, to lobby the federal government to make sure that Maryland gets the funding to do this bridge. It is absolutely critical that we get support. And if the supervisor and others wish the bridge to come into reality, this would be a good time for them to work with us. We'd like to work together. The bridge is Maryland's responsibility, as it has been since King Charles the first decreed that Maryland owns all the way to the Virginia shore. So the entire Potomac River is in Maryland, and it impacts the structure. And the impact of the structure goes far beyond the state line. So even though the bridge would be technically ours, the impact on this bridge is large for both Montgomery County and Fairfax County and the rest of Virginia, as well as the rest of the state. So this is a shared problem. We'd like to address this problem together. It's time for everybody to come together and ensure this vital piece of infrastructure gets the attention and resources that it deserves. The state is in the federal approval process again. They have not gotten an approval on an appropriation, but we're hoping they've at least gotten through the next hurdle, and hopefully they'll wind up with an appropriation that'll help make on building this bridge possible. But I just want to assure the supervisor, nobody on our side is trying to delay or stop the building of this bridge. And I would hope that he wouldn't think that we would do that kind of thing because it's actually harmful to both sides of the river. On a final note, before I turn it over to Earl and the HHS folks, I want to talk about a few issues. First, I want to thank and congratulate the Maryland Congressional Delegation and Governor's Board team for being successful in getting full funding for rebuilding the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Rebuilding this bridge is critical to the state's economy as well as traffic at 995, and the Congress acted, I think last night possibly, to put funding for the Francis Scott Key Bridge into the budget. And second, I want to thank MCA, our teachers union, for supporting limits on cell phones and social media, as well as increasing pay for elected members and staff of the Board of Education. I'm especially happy about the being willing to speak out about cell phones and social media. Why anybody thought it was a good idea to have kids have their phones open in class and playing games and texting while they were supposed to be learning how anybody could be serious about educating kids and think this was a good thing, I do not know. But I'm glad that the Board of Education, I'm glad that the teachers union at this point has taken a stand that we need to be serious about not allowing these things to disrupt learning in our classrooms. You've heard me support these issues previously, and I do hope they take actions quickly. There is one issue that I'm not happy about regarding the schools, and that's the latest racist incident that occurred in a county high school, and the delay in acknowledging what happened and reaching out to parents and students is pretty unacceptable. I appreciate the superintendent's response and his actions that had real consequences. Hate speech, whether it's targeting race, religion, or identity, is unacceptable. It has to be treated seriously so that people realize there will be consequences, and it has to occur as soon as we are aware of an incident. We can't keep things quiet and hope that they go away. So I appreciate the superintendent's action on this, and hopefully that'll be the norm going forward for any of these incidents when they occur. And finally, last weekend, we had the 13th induction ceremony for the Montgomery County Human Rights Hall of Fame. It was held at Black Rock Center for the Performing Arts. This year, we welcomed 6 individuals into the Hall of Fame. Former County Executive Doug Duncan, Catherine Leggett, Shirlene Lucas, Connie Morella, Reverend Dr. Gareth Murray, and Carl Prather Sr. Each of them has made a remarkable contribution to our community for governance, advocacy, and community building, and lifting up those who need it most. Their work reminds us of the incredible impact that one person can have when they're committed to advancing human rights and creating opportunities for others. The Hall of Fame is more than a celebration of individual achievements. It's a testament to the values that make Montgomery County what it is, a place where diversity is celebrated, inclusivity is central to our culture, and human rights are a priority. These values are why so many people from different backgrounds have chosen to make this county their home. And as I said on Sunday, our work is not done. We have flaws to address, and there's progress to be made. We will continue our commitment to build a more equitable and inclusive county, and the legacies of all of our Hall of Fame inductees inspire us to continue the hard work of creating a better future for everyone. If we're not doing that, we're not doing what we should be doing. I'm now going to turn this over to Dr. Stoddard and the HHS team.
I don't have any updates for this week. I don't know if the HHS team does.
Not for me, Dr. Stoddard. I will toss it over to Sean, who has some public health service updates.
I just want to wish everyone a healthy and safe holiday, and try to keep our respiratory disease down this year. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Members of the media, we're going to open it up for questions right now. General questions. I see Adam Tuff already have his hand up. Adam, NBC4, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for doing this briefing. County Executive Elrich, I know you kind of just addressed this, but is there any truth to what the Fairfax County Board of Chairman is saying here? I know you said you don't think anyone is doing it intentionally, but why would he make that comment?
maybe out of frustration. But I don't think, frankly, that he understands the state's financial situation. I don't think he understands limitations in how we raise revenues over here, because he's in a state that actually knows how to raise revenues. I keep pointing to them as an example of a state that has the tools for raising the revenues and therefore can actually produce the projects they need to produce. Maryland is cursed without having those tools, to be blunt. And I think he's just frustrated because they're going to be at the bridge with their project. And our project is nowhere near starting. I get the frustration, but there's no intentionality to blocking this.
Does a comment like that get your back up at all when, we've been talking so much about how the region needs to work together?
Well, it was a little frustrating because I've talked to him. He was one of the people that I talked to very early on about Virginia's taxing structure and what a difference it's made for them. I mean, learning from them and talking to them about how they do things is something that I've been very open to doing, because it's hard not to look at what they've been successful at and to think about how you imitate that. If he had that concern, I wish he had just picked up the phone and just called me and said, what's going on? What is the delay? Where are we? I don't know if he even knows that the bridge has been submitted to the federal government again, and they got the first level of approval. Wasn't approval for the project itself and money, but I think it was an approval equivalent to saying you're ready to go forward to the next step. And I don't know if he even knew we had done that. He may just be looking at this and feeling the frustration. But sometimes people get frustrated. They say things. It's not a reason to get mad, particularly when you generally have a good relationship with a person and you work together.
Yeah, and my
I
last
wouldn't say that ever getting irritated.
My last comment on this: does the Moore administration need to move faster with the project?
Can't move any faster than the feds do, right? I mean, we need the feds to say we're going to fund all or as much as whatever they're going to fund, so we can figure out how much of a gap the state of Maryland has to come up with. But Moore can't move any faster on that until we actually get a federal approval and we know what we're working with. So no, I wouldn't put that on the governor.
Thank you, Adam. Jeannie Bexby, Local 360. Good afternoon, Jeannie.
Good afternoon. Hi, Lorna. Hi, Mark. I'm switching gears a little to something that you haven't discussed today, but I'm working on a story about how the county is going to, how county, both officials and advocates and people working in the reproductive health space are planning to address the incoming Trump administration and Republican majority in Congress. I know my very first story I wrote in Montgomery County was about that big appropriation you did for abortion providers. Do you know, coming into the next year, like what your plans are as the executive branch, what you were looking to do, what you think are things that could come up in regards to this issue?
So I'm hoping that nothing comes up. Trump is, early on stated he'd think this matter ought to be left to the states, assuming he believes that or believes anything he says. The Maryland voters just passed, the right to choose is in the state constitution. So nothing we're doing violates the laws of the state. It's totally consistent with the Constitution. The president says he believes in local legislation, so he should just ignore us and go about his merry way, and we'll go about our merry way and just disagree. But we don't think we're doing anything that should trigger his attention.
Is there anything that you plan to do in terms of, I've talked to providers who are seeing an increased number of folks coming to this area to receive this care. I'm not asking you to put a number or specific on anything, but do you see that there being something, again, kind of like that appropriation you did about 2.5 years ago? Do you think those kinds of measures might continue to be necessary in some place that, like Montgomery County, that's kind of a sanctuary for this access?
So that's where the providers are going to have to come to us, because, the county doesn't provide this directly. It's private, usually nonprofit providers who are doing this. Nobody has come across and set up a meeting with me and said, in the coming budget, we're going to need X. So, I'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeannie. Members of the media, any more questions for the county executive and the other officials? More questions? Well, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We'll see you next time. Be safe. Have a great day.
Thank you all.